We'll start with the recording. This is a meeting under the open meeting law, and it's a public meeting. Anybody can attend or watch that. Therefore, it's recorded and it's going to be uploaded. People can watch it at a later time if they're not available right now. So we started the recording. If you do not want to be in the recording, well, if you don't want to be recorded, it is a public meeting. So there's an expectation that it will be recorded. So when you open your video to make a comment, you will be on the record. If you don't wish to do that, don't open your video. I wanted to proceed doing the roll call of who's here and then talk about communication rules so that we can make sure that everything functions well. We have sign language interpreters and deaf interpreters ready. And we're providing closed captioning. You can see that on the bottom where the closed caption box is. You should be able to get a transcript and you can change how you view that. If you have an issue with it, Bethany Link can help you and you can contact her through the chat. So I'll do the roll call now. We have commissioners from the board that have been elected, and we have staff from the Rhode Island Commission who work here in the office. The board tends to look long range from over a year into the future, and the staff work on day-to-day operations. I'm Tim Riker, and I'm facilitating this meeting. I'm the chair of the commission, but everyone has an equal vote. Carolyn Obrecht is here.
Hi.
She's the vice chair. If I was unable to run the meeting, she would take over in my stead. And Brett Hayes is here. He is a commissioner and he's the treasurer. If we need approval for things, he signs off on that for contracts. We have Betsy Beach. She's our secretary. She takes the minutes and the notes and produces them for us to have access to vote the next time that we meet. So she produces the minutes. And then we have general board members who are not officers. I'm looking at the list as I see it on the participants. We have David Milani. He's a recent addition to the board. We have Drew Balsley, also a new addition. Tina Nelson. She came in last summer, right? Hi, Tina. I don't know if there are other board members that I'm missing. Let me just go over the participant list again. There are 6 of us here, which means we've met our quorum of 5, and we can go ahead and vote if we need to. If we don't have 5 people, we cannot run the meeting officially, but we have enough, so that's excellent. Betsy Beach, did you want to say something?
I see that Bun Mayosho just joined us, Tim. She may be in the bottom of your screen.
Oh, all right. So then we have 7 commissioners with Bunmi Osho here as well. Perfect. There is another commissioner, but they don't seem to be here tonight. That's Kimmy Marthers. but we can definitely proceed officially with the meeting. Oh, you are here. Hi, good to see you. Excellent. So we have actually 8 commissioners tonight. The staff that are here tonight are Earnest, Covington III. He's the executive director of the Rhode Island Commission office. We have Bethany Link. She's hosting the Zoom call tonight and making sure the tech is working and that the interpreters are visible and captioning is happening. We have Christine West. She's working on the Health System Transformation Project, HSTP. And that's her committee, so she'll talk about that. Let me look further down. We have Erin Furtado. Oh, she's corrected me. She used to be staff, but as of December 31st, she's not staff anymore. And Lindsay Conway is a contracted staff person. There's Mike Bear. I think that's all the staff people, and please let me know if there's anyone I've missed. Very good. So the first item is to ask for public comments from participants who are not commissioners or staff. We always start the meeting with public comments. If you wish to speak at this point, later in the meeting, you can make a request, but it is possible that you'll put something in the chat and we won't recognize you at that point. This is the time for public comments. So just to be forewarned, if you have an issue that you want to be addressing later on and we have enough time, put it in the chat, direct it to me, and I will call on you. But it depends on the point that we're at the meeting and if we have enough time or not. And it's possible that you could make a brief comment and open your video. But just be patient because there may be some delay depending on the work that we're doing at that moment. We have a deaf interpreter today. We have deaf interpreters providing access. So when we're taking turns speaking, we need to make sure that the interpreters have finished the interpretation. Obviously, you're identified on the Zoom call, but if you could say who's speaking when you start to speak, that would help the interpreters to identify the speakers. We have captioning provided. You can also change the window. You can change what is visible at a time. We try to have only 4 people visible and also so that the captioning is visible. You can put it into another window or you can have it running along at the bottom subtitled. But if there are more than 4 people, we're going to ask for you to close your window so that we only have 4 at any given time. Is there anything else that people want to add at this point? I'm trying to remember anything else that I have to run through at the beginning of the meeting. But if I've forgotten anything before we proceed, please alert me to that. We have the minutes from the January 20th meeting. And those have been distributed to the commissioners. If there are any corrections or revisions, please address those now, and otherwise I'll accept a motion to accept the minutes as written. Any comments specific to the minutes? Bethany, are you able to screen share to show us the minutes and just scroll up through them for a moment?
Yes, just one moment, please.
Great.
Just tell me when you would like me to scroll down.
I'm on page 2 and I'm not seeing it scrolling up. Bethany, if you want to show more of page 2, that'd be great. Thank you. Very good. And whatever's, I think on page 3, there's a little bit. So if you can show some of that, thank you. I see Mike Baer making a comment as a revision. He's not a commissioner, but he's obviously welcome to comment. Thank you. So under Earnest report, there's a comment about a workshop that I attended last month. It talks about testing and vaccination and demographics. But I don't think I said the word demographics. Betsy, I could send you the 5 areas that the workshop covered. And just to clarify that that's documented for those purposes. Betsy, is that good to go?
That would be great to have the actual titles from you. I would love that. And I put them in the way they were presented.
Very good. Thank you. Tim saying, thanks, Mike. Any other comments, corrections? If none, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the minutes with revisions. Tina.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written with the corrections that Betsy will make to Mike's titles.
Very good. So is somebody able to second? Yes, Drew? Drew is seconding. If people could open their videos to show that they're voting in favor. If all are in agreement. Obviously, if you're thumbs down, that means you're voting not to accept the minutes, but I'm seeing thumbs up. Let me count. Yes, we have all 8 commissioners. Very good. So unanimously accepted with the revision as stated. Betsy,
There's 9 of us here. I don't, someone, I think you didn't count yourself when you went through us in the beginning.
well, I might have. Okay, very good. If there's no objections, I mean, there's no one voting against this motion or abstaining, so we're good. The next item is the chair report. I wanted to briefly comment that the month of February is Black History Month. And it's important to recognize Black history during this period. And it's one of the things that we're working on is looking at issues and figuring out what our approach would be. And when addressing different concerns in the community, and obviously that won't end by the end of the month. The Rhode Island Commissioner and other state agencies, if there are any issues or challenges that you're noticing that need to be addressed, we're going to persist in approaching those and making resolution. As people know, Martin Luther King Jr., MLK, was a Black man who said that anywhere there is a threat to justice, that impacts all of us. So anywhere out there that is having any inequities, that affects everyone, everywhere. So anything that's not right, we cannot just ignore it. It will come back to haunt us, basically. And we have to address those things. We recognize that, rising sea raises all boats. And we will all benefit from that. I see a comment in the chat. I'm sorry, I just wrote that in the chat so that you have the exact quote from MLK. A threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I wanted Earnest, he's the executive director, he's going to make a report at this point. And I would like to have him limit his report to 20 minutes. And if there are any other staff reports, those would be included in the Rhode Island Commission's office report. I'll reduce my videos so that we can make sure that Earnest is very visible.
Hello, everyone. Bethany, if you don't mind going ahead and doing this screen share now of the agenda tonight. Okay, there will be 4 reports. The first one will be on COVID. And the next one is about the NBDA, the National Black Deaf Advocates. and also increasing the pool of CDIs and DIs. And then we're going to do some community spotlights and some events that we have upcoming. And lastly, there will be updates from some meetings with RIRID, RIAD, several of those meetings that have been happening and what's going on. We have a PowerPoint to show you what has been going on and just updating some information and some things that have been improved. So we have a PowerPoint to share later on with that. So Bethany, you can remove the screen share at this point. Thank you so much, Bethany. So first, regarding COVID, of course, it's been very challenging. There's been a number of issues, and we've been focusing on public service announcements and providing information about the plan for vaccination and next steps. So thank you so much, Mike Baer, for providing a lot of advocacy and assistance in spreading that information out into the community and making sure that people know the vaccination plan. And people are getting the information, what that looks like, and also making sure that we're doing that in a fair way that is accessible to everyone. They know exactly where to get the vaccine, how to get it, what cohort they might be in, and how to fill out applications to receive an appointment for a vaccine. So a lot of that information it's a lot of responsibility. And also I've been talking with Mike Baer a lot about providing that information and identifying the community around Rhode Island that would be in that category of 75 or above to receive vaccination. So we're going to be continuing to send messages out to specific cohorts within the community to make sure they have access, they know what's required, they know how to fill out the form and to get online to make an appointment for vaccines. So there are a few concerns that people have about the vaccine form. There's some complications around filling it out. So Mike Baer has also had some DIs and CDIs who will be creating a signed version of that form and what the process looks like. So any deaf and hard of hearing people who are going to go in will see a signed version that will be able to navigate through to make an appointment in order to get a vaccination. So that's something we're currently working on. Thank you so much, Mike Baer, for working on that. And Bethany and Holly and Pam and Lindsay, they've been doing a lot of works with interpreters, making sure the information is getting out. So currently, we recently received from the Department of Health some information that we will be sharing about vaccines specifically for those 75 and above. And it will be a first come, first serve within that cohort. So we were going to be sending out a flyer to the community about that information. So if people are interested in signing up for that, we are looking for people to sign up for that plan. It's something that will be ready soon, and it should be ready by Friday and Saturday. So we recommend that people fill out the forms and make sure they can get an appointment. And that's for those who are 75 above or those who live specifically in Providence. And so there's a very limited amount of vaccines. So you have to fill out the form quickly, and it is first come, first serve. So it's something that's important for people to jump on. So Mike Baer is creating that flyer to make sure the information gets out there. People know what to do, where to go, how to fill out the form, and that is something that will be sent out soon. We know that that's a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of work that the Department of Health has been doing, making sure that people have all enough access to the vaccine and information about the vaccine, when it will be ready, the timing of getting the vaccine. Access and equitable access is certainly a high value. So thank you so much to the staff and to Mike Baer for doing a lot of work and investing a lot of time in that. More of that should be released soon. Also, I know, Mike Bear, would you like to have anything to add onto what was just reported on that? Thank you so much, Ernest. Mike is saying the reason why we didn't send out a signed flyer earlier is we wanted the information directly from the Rhode Island Department of Health. There were 2 new sites. And now that we have all of the information, both from the state site, from the CVS, the pharmacy, Walgreens sites, and then also the Rhode Island cities and towns sites, we now have all of that information ready, and it's in the editing process. And at that point, it will be sent over to Bethany. It should be voiced soon and then be sent out. So that's going to help a lot, reduce a lot of confusion, and that information will be sent out to the deaf community. And really, it's not only at this point that the deaf community is confused, this is that everyone across the state is confused. So I think the Department of Health, they know their part, and the pharmacies, they just kind of jumped ahead and moved ahead with this project. So we still are working all together to make sure the process is there, and that the information should be going out within the next day or 2. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. So just keep your eye on that, social media specifically. And please also get the word out into the community so that people in the community, specifically those who are 75 and above, will know what to do this Friday and Saturday. So if you could get the word out in the community about that. So moving on to the next part of the agenda, Mike Bear saying, I just have one more thing to add. Sure. It's thrilling to make the announcement that we are going to have vaccines, a workshop and presentation next week on Thursday, February 24th with Dr. Philip Chan. And he is the top person at the Department of Health. We asked for him specifically, and he said yes. So he was thrilled to meet the deaf and hard of hearing community. We've already sent out a flyer last week, and that will be sent out, another reminder, tomorrow. So hopefully we have good numbers showing up for that workshop. That'll be next Thursday evening. Also, we asked the community to please send their questions in. So Dr. Chan wants to review those questions so he can be prepared to answer them. He did say that it would be limited to 1 hour, but to the deaf community, we're hoping that, he's just going to do a 10-15 minute presentation and then open it up for a lengthy time for question and answers. I think people will at that point feel a lot more confident about the vaccine. So I'm really thrilled. So if you could help get that word out into the community about that presentation next Thursday, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Ernest. Thank you so much, Mike Bear. Okay, and moving on to the next point in the agenda, we have the National Black Deaf Advocates because of Black History Month. And you might be wondering, what exactly is that panel? And we have 2 new additions in the States. The Massachusetts Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing is a Black African-American, and that's the first. So we're really thrilled about that. And also, he's African, and we also have 4 Black directors, myself in Rhode Island. In Illinois, there's a Black director there as well. And also in Missouri. Recently moved to Massachusetts now. So both of them same MCDHH initials. And then there's also a Black hearing woman in Nevada. So nationwide, we want to talk about our experiences as Black directors, some of the struggles that we faced, how we've approached that. And it was really good to hear from all of us and to be able to share our experience and as our work as Black directors. And it's really rare. So it was nice to be able to share and present and people to have that information. So I'd really encourage people to apply, not for fear of that oppression that they were going to face, but also just to really encourage people to go ahead and apply for state leadership positions. We need more people in leadership throughout the country, and there's often people stay in the same position for fear of different things they might face as they would move up the ladder in their career. But really, I would say invest your energy and invest in that, because we need more leaders to be those role models of directors. So this panel is giving it not exactly advice, but encouraging people so that people can see, oh, you could do it, I could do it too. And that's going to be on February 25th. It's going to be in the evening at 6 p.m. And it's going to be the National Black Deaf Advocates panel. So there's nothing that you have to pay for. It's going to be fully covered. We will be putting out more information into the Rhode Island community about that, so people can attend and watch that presentation. All right, so moving on to the next part of the agenda. I know, as you could see at this meeting for the first time, it hasn't happened before, we have deaf interpreters. We're hearing people in the community having some complaints that they wanted to see more CDIs and DIs. And so Interpreter Referral Service, Holly and Bethany and Pam, were having a discussion amongst themselves and agreed that, yes, we really wanted to respect the community's wishes and have deaf interpreters available throughout this meeting. And people who work as DIs and CDIs, we really need for that pool to grow. So if you're interested in that position, we would want people to look at the MPA, the Master's Price Agreement, sign up, start working towards getting a license here in Rhode Island so that they could work here. It could be for various types of jobs, maybe for a commission meeting here, it could be for medical appointment. There are a number of different types of jobs. But we really want to encourage community members to ask more people who would be interested in being DIs or CDIs to join that pool. I know I see a big difference when DIs or CDIs are being used in a meeting. I noticed that. And I think it's something that the community needs to see more of. So I am fully in favor of seeing that pool of deaf interpreters grow within the state so that there would be more. Right now we have a low amount of interpreters, deaf interpreters within the state. And so sometimes it can be difficult securing an interpreter, but we'd like to have a diverse pool that people could choose from comfortably and secure a deaf interpreter. And to see that, you know, a director using CDI, it's also good to show that to the community that it's highly valued and that there's lots of consumers that would also want to begin using CDIs and DIs. And we really want to see that pool of deaf interpreters grow. Specifically here in the commission meetings, we're going to be continuing to use DIs and CDIs more regularly. And hopefully at that point, people will begin to realize that's a high value here. Okay, so regarding the community spotlight, there's a lot of people who've said that they wanted to have some spotlights into the community to see what's working, what services are available, what's going on, what things people are interested in. And we really wanted to begin this community spotlight so that when things were settled, people would be able to, okay, let's look at what's going on. I think in the last few months, it's been really challenging with a number of things that have come up. And once everything was beginning to calm down a bit, we've been thinking about different organizations that we should spotlight. And we're going to continue to take turns on that list. Sorry, I just need to adjust something on my screen. So we do want to do, the Rhode Island Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing wants to begin some discussions. And also we're hoping to do legislative week. Hopefully it would be sometime in April. And then we've also heard hearing loss. We want to host that in May. And then it's the week if September, I mean, the month of September, there's going to be some that time, and then we'll do a coffee hour, probably sometime in November. So September will be Deaf Awareness Week, and then the coffee hour in November. We also have been thinking about a site, and we're thinking of meeting physically, a physical site, potentially at the State House or maybe within Zoom. So we're still in this place right now of trying to figure out which one would be best. We're thinking now we might continue in Zoom up until that coffee hour in November. So we're going to see if we could host something in the State House. If we can't, then we will also continue that within Zoom, the same way that we did last year. So we're hoping to host several events in the next year, so keep a lookout for those. They probably will be up on social media or websites. Those announcements will be sent out. So we also have the meetings with RI, RID, and RAD, the deaf and hard of hearing community coming together for a number of discussions about interpreter referral service and some other important topics, and some of the issues that have come up and how we would resolve them and to improve some of that, the quality of services, making sure that communication is clear, that there's transparency. And we really wanted to identify some of the issues that are coming up within those discussions at the meetings. There would be a large benefit for the Rhode Island community, for interpreters, for everyone, to make sure that everything was a seamless process. So we wanted to make sure that we shared a screen here from the interpreter referral service. Okay, as you can see here, these are the number of requests that we've had since November 2020 until June of 2021, January 31st of 2021. So there's 216 state and government. There were 3 errors that were canceled. Next slide, please. You can see this list. There are the list of regular requests, and then there is a separate list of state requests. Mostly you'll see within that regular request, most of those would be in the medical percentage. As you can see, the 273. There's also some emergencies, mental health being the second, but medical overall is the highest. Within the state request, you can see that most of them are related to education with 122 requests. The second one being meetings. So if you notice that most of the requests are related to education and medical. So just to show you what that looks like. Next slide, please. So these are some of the statistics and metrics here. Some of them, if they're at least 5 business days, 89%. The next one, if the request is between, 1 day to 4 days ahead of time, it's 86% is fulfilled. The third metric here is if the service is less than 1 day, the request is being made, then it's actually at 82%. And then final, if it's less than 1 day, maybe within the next hour or so, there's 100%. So you'll see that we're continuing to work to improve the fulfillment of the requests. In the past, there were some pretty low numbers here. And as you can see, these are improving. So we're really hoping to see continued improvement in the future, and we'd love a goal of 95 to 100% for all of them. The 80%, we're seeing that we're making progress, but this is not a place where we want to stop along this path. We want to continue to see further fulfillment of these requests. Next slide. So we had our meeting with RIRD and RAD and to identify several of the issues and policies and procedures that we needed to update. If you may notice, there have been some expressed concerns about the confirmations being sent during business hours. And that means if a request is made and the interpreter is confirmed, most of the interpreters feel that they don't receive the confirmation within the business hours. You know, they might be receiving them late, 8, 9 at night, midnight, 1 in the morning. They'd rather receive those confirmations between business hours, between that 8 and 5 p.m. to receive a confirmation. After that, they'd rather wait till the next day. The interpreter said that they feel that the emails coming in are coming to them in some of their non-work hours. They're not working, but they're still receiving work emails. So they would prefer to have these confirmations come in during the hours of the workday. So that's an adjustment that we're continuing to make. Also, a review of the MPA. There is some agreement of needing to make some revisions and really help interpreters sign up to the MPA. Right now, we have less than 30 interpreters on the MPA, and we want to grow that pool and not necessarily recruit, but we want to send out a call for more interpreters to become contract members of the MPA. Also, we want to try to get one more additional FTE. We have 1 person and 1 contract staff, but really there's additional work that needs to be done. So we are petitioning the state for another FTE and we're waiting for that response. It is going to add to the up budget, so we'll see how that goes. Also, we wanted to streamline communication and reduce some of the miscommunications that have been going on. We want to keep that flow, streamlined, clear communication, both from the client to the request to the interpreter, making sure that it is a smooth process. We don't want to have any of the conflicts and confusion that has come up. Now, I'll turn it over to Tim soon for him to discuss this a little bit more, but we are talking about leading, adding some more information, some policies, trying to make some adjustments and improvements with that. And then we're going to hopefully give that to the commission for approval. There are some things that we want to continue to make adjustments, do some further research, and get input from more people in the community, what people are seeing, what they're needing. So once we are satisfied with the feedback that we have, then we will continue on with that process of providing more revisions to the policies around interpreters. We're also working on policies specifically on RID and how to make sure that the policies align with RID. Some of the information that we have is older information, and we want to make sure that it's updated. So we're updating some of these policies to reflect what is seen in RID's standards. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm finished with my report. Sorry, I think I went over the 20 minutes, but I appreciate that.
Tim saying, are there any commissioners who have any questions about the report you just heard from Earnest? Any clarifications? Yes, Brett.
Hey, this is Brett here. I thought that in the slide, you mentioned that you had 1 full-time employee and 1 support staff. Is that correct?
Are you
Yeah.
talking about interpreter referral?
Okay.
And Ernest is coming on and saying, exactly, that's true. We have one contract person and one full-time. We're adding another request for another full-time person. Then we would have two full-time people. We would not have the contract person. We would have a second full-time person instead.
Okay, thank you. But is the rest of the team at the commission in the office trained to also complete interpreter request if they're in the event that you have too much volume on a given day or you need extra support? Is the entire team trained to be able to help complete request, or is that something we should consider talking about?
Ernest is coming on saying, yes. We have Bethany Lank, who's working with Holly St. Pierre on interpreter referral service. So she is working to try to, she's been working for what, 3 or 4 years to do training and be able to support. But Holly is the only, she was alone for so long, and now Bethany is there. But we think if we had a full-time person committed, then Holly could work on certain items. And the other person could also work on specific items designated for them, because we're getting over 3,000 requests now. The number is going up, but that's a really good question.
Yeah, I mean, we can save the time for the ad hoc committee. That way we can get on with the meeting tonight. But it's just something to think about. So, all right, thank you.
Tim saying, are there any other questions or comments about the report that you just heard from Ernest? If none, I will move on to the next item in the agenda. We have some brief reports from the different committees. Some had reported in January. And what I would ask is if there's something new that's happened since January, you could add that, but if not, those would be brief. The first is the Education Committee. I had reported back in January. We did have a report from the Education Committee, and I'm wondering if there's any updates. And right now, there's nothing new to add to the report, but we will be having another meeting for the Education Committee upcoming very soon. And I don't have the exact date in that. There might be somebody here from that committee who could put out the date because I don't have it off the top of my head. Is Bethany? That was January 14th, right? But do we have another one coming up for February or early March? The next meeting, March 18th. Perfect. I see it, the 18th. Very good, thank you. So the Employment Committee, do you have a report? Sorry, thank you. Christine's adding that Nancy is here from the Rhode Island School for the Deaf, and that wasn't interpreted. This is Betsy speaking. And you're muted.
Just tried to unmute, sorry. The Employment Committee met on January 28th, which was
One moment, where? We're good.
The Employment Committee met on January 28th, which was a week after the last board meeting, commission meeting. And we had Liz Hubbard from Disability Rights Rhode Island present to us about reasonable accommodations in the workplace. which was any change or adjustment to a job or work environment or job application process that would allow a person with a disability to apply for the job and enjoy equal access when they had the job on the job. And we got a lot of good information from her and are starting the planning process for how to have webinars or other types of things to disseminate some of that information to the public. So that's about it. That was a good meeting.
Tim saying thank you. We have the healthcare, health systems transformation project. So Christine and Alex. And I think Brett is also, Brett, if you had a report also on that? If there's anything new.
I know that we haven't met yet since the last time we had our monthly commission meeting. So we don't have any new update to come off a committee meeting, but we are tentatively planning and targeting the second week of March to meet, I believe either March 8th or 9th. And I'll be sending a request to Bethany tomorrow morning to confirm the date and request an interpreter. So that's really all I have on the healthcare committee.
Christine, did you want to add something?
Yes, hi, sure. Good evening, everyone. I just have some brief updates from the healthcare system transformation project. As you know, we sent out 2 surveys, one to the deaf and hard of hearing community, one to healthcare professionals across the state, those who are currently working and those students who are studying various health professions in the colleges and universities. We have the results of both of those surveys, and we will be sharing them at the next healthcare committee meeting at the beginning of March. So if you're interested in seeing those results, I hope you'll please join us for that meeting. And as Brett said, that Zoom link will be sent out publicly for anyone who would like to join. We're also in the process of creating 12 virtual trainings for healthcare providers, and that's in response to the results that we received from the survey that we had administered. So both Alex and I have been very busy working on those virtual trainings, and when those are ready, those will be announced. Our website is ready to go. We developed a prototype. We sent it on to the state to replicate, and it is ready. We're now in the process of having the English text of the website translated by a certified deaf interpreter. So once that is complete, then that should be ready to go. We want to ensure that the website is accessible in both ASL and English. And finally, the advisory group for the public health interpreting program has been meeting every 2 weeks to continue our work. And we have a 4-hour retreat planned for February 27th. And that's it for my update on HSTP.
Yeah, thank you, Christine. Nope, I'm good about that.
Very good. So the next item is for the, Tech Access and Telecommunications Relay Service Committee. And Ernest, I didn't know if you had brief comments about that, any updates related to the Tech Access Committee. Ernest? Yes, there you are. Sorry. Yes. The Tech Access Committee right now has no membership. And I have been asking Tim to make a vlog to recruit new members to participate in that committee. We have some people that we need to have on any given committee. to qualify for the state. And we don't have those people yet. So we're recruiting new people and we're hoping soon as possible, but obviously things take time. And Tim is saying, thank you very much, Ernest. That needs to be announced so that people could apply and then join. The last item is a new committee that we're forming. And it will be discussed further on in the agenda, the Ad Hoc Interpreter Referral Service Committee. We are hoping today that that could be the people who are going to be on that committee could be approved and they can have their first meeting. But we first need to satisfy the minimum requirements for a committee. The law requires a deaf person, a hard of hearing person, and a person who's one of the commissioners. Right now, we do not have a hard of hearing person. Once we identify somebody who'd be willing to be part of it, then we could move forward and begin meeting. There will be further discussion about that committee later on in the agenda. Are there any questions related to any of the committee reports? Yes, Betsy?
Yeah, I have identified a hard of hearing person, but they have some things they want to shift in their schedule in the next couple months, and they're trying to do that and will tell me Friday about if they would like to do it. Somebody who's very involved in HLAA, Rhode Island. So hopefully that news will come shortly in the next couple days. I'll have a name for folks.
Very good, thank you. That's a great update. So I really appreciate people wanting to be involved. It's great. And I know sometimes it's a challenge because we're growing and there's a lot of people involved. These new committees are being populated. It's very exciting, but it's also a challenge. The next section is on unfinished business. Those are things that were originally items on other agendas from the past. And if there's anything new or an update on those, they're listed on the agenda. So, Bethany, if you could share the agenda so that people can see these items under unfinished business. Thank you. All right, so we have 4. You can see them listed A, B, C, D, and we're going to be discussing them. The first item is an ongoing issue with vaccinations during this time of COVID-19. There already has been a report about the vaccinations just now from Mike Baer, and I don't know if there's any further discussion that needs to happen, but there is time set aside now. And if not, we can move on. We can move on then to the second item. Are there any commissioners who have more follow-up with the comment, with the first topic, excuse me, for vaccinations, before we move on to the item ready, that's marked B? If none, we did have a report on the vaccinations, and we will then move on to B, which is the evaluation for Earnest, Covington. We're going to be setting up the executive director's positions evaluation. I've been in contact with the Rhode Island Department of Administration, and I had my request forwarded to 2 employees. And this week, I have not gotten a reply. I have tried following up and I haven't heard back. So for a week, and then for a second week, I heard nothing. This next week, it's going to be a full month that I've been waiting. So I don't know if they're overly busy or if it's a very low priority item, but I have tried, every week for the last 3 weeks. I don't know how to follow up or to make sure that we can get a meeting going. I've heard nothing from them. I don't know if there's going to be any suggestions or ideas about how I could get through to the Department of Administration to make sure that we get this done. And I would appreciate any feedback or thoughts about that. Any of you have suggestions or feedback? Okay. I will persist. Obviously, I'm not somebody to give up. Every week I have been following up. Yes, Tina? Hold on a sec.
Should we craft a letter to them signed by the commissioners asking for the movement?
We don't know if Tim is spotlighted right now, but all we're seeing is the interpreter, Rachel.
This is Tina. I can't see myself anymore either, so.
Here we are. I don't know what that was. And I'm not sure what happened, Tim's saying.
Would you like me to continue screen sharing, Tim? This is Bethany speaking.
Yes, we're going to go back to screen sharing. Thank you. So one moment. One moment. Tina, did you have a suggestion that we should type up a letter to for the commissioners to sign? And I mean, we don't need to all sign, but it could be the, copies.
Something more formal.
Something formal that we pass on to them. People are saying they can't see the interpreter in the chat. So I don't know why that is.
There's issues right now with, this is Bethany speaking, there's issues with the screen sharing and being able to see multiple people at a time.
People are making comments about whether to see it in the gallery view or not, but the interpreter is just continuing the interpretation of what Bethany just said. Then let's not screen share for now, Tim is saying. I think what we should do is make sure that we're not signing at the same time. If we are screen sharing, we open the screen share, everybody can glance at the document, then we turn it off and go back to this view with the interpreter and myself spotlighted. And I can actually talk about what's on the agenda and then we can discuss it. I think that taking turns back and forth rather than trying to screen share throughout it, I will state what's on the agenda. Last week, I did send out Now I can't remember if it was a letter or an email to the Department of Administration. So I know it's always an issue, but now with COVID, it's even harder to see. We want to be able to set up a meeting where I'm just wondering if we could write a letter. And I don't know if a letter would be effective at this point because it would come pretty far. You know, it wouldn't happen now soon. It would happen in the future if we had time to actually meet to write. I don't know if there's any discussion about Tina's idea or how we can address that. Hearing none, let's move. Well, I'm actually thinking maybe we could have a break briefly, and then we could come back and finish the rest of the agenda. Do you want to take a break? I see there's some items in the chat. Somebody is asking what I'm addressing with the Department of Administration. So I'll clarify a little bit of background history for you all. We have been approved to set up an annual evaluation of our executive director. It's supposed to be our responsibility, but in the past, that didn't happen. So now it is starting to become an established practice. We have the job description, and the evaluation would be obviously based on the job description. And we have to use the Rhode Island state internal evaluation process through DOA, but we don't have access to it. So that is why I'm trying to speak to them so that they can give us support on setting up the evaluation so that the commissioners can do the evaluation. And we don't want it a paper and pencil type of evaluation. That's more old-fashioned. We want it to be through the internet. First of all, it's more secure. That's why I've been talking to the DOA. And I also want to make sure that we have established a practice that's in agreement or alignment with the other agencies that are also working on their evaluations for their commissions. So that's why I've been in touch with them. I will try again. I'll follow up a little bit more. I've definitely, I've tried emailing. I will call. I'm not crazy about using the phone, but it's possible that they're not responsive to anything but phone calls. Carolyn, yes.
So this is Caroline speaking. And I know that you have to be diplomatic and careful, but when I try to get through to people, and I've tried repeatedly, what I sometimes do is I will send them an email saying, I've tried to reach you 4 times and I haven't been successful. Could you possibly give me the name of your supervisor, because it seems that you're not available to me. And that way I either get a response or I get the name of a supervisor. So you don't want to make them mad, but I think it's wrong of them to totally ignore you.
Tim's saying yes. The first email, they said we forwarded it on to these other 2 people, but they didn't CC them. So I don't know who those people were. I just know I was informed that it went on to them. Then I heard nothing. So I tried to reach my original contact again and say, I haven't received a reply. Nobody has contacted me. And then heard nothing. And then since then, nothing. So every week I have followed up with my original contact and have gotten nothing back, except for this first one. So that's why I was thinking if I called, maybe they would answer. I don't know. I don't really love using the phone and leaving voicemail messages, but I could. Let me try another time in the next period. And if I continue to have problems, I'll bring it back to this commission. But I wanted people to know that I am still attempting to do this and that I haven't let it sit on the back burner. Okay. So if there's any further discussion about item B, otherwise I think we should take a quick break, maybe 5 minutes. Give your eyes a rest, and then we'll come back to finish up the agenda. We can start at 7:18, let's say, 5 minutes from now, and we'll continue with unfinished business. A 5-minute break at this point. Thank you.
So Betsy Beach is the secretary here. Is she also ready? If so, then we can move ahead.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. So now we came back at 7:18. And the next point on our agenda is the legislative week. So what we're planning to do, try to get community involvement. We're contacting various legislators, senators, representatives, people in elected positions. Potentially they could do some meet and greets. They can share about, people can share about issues, frustrations, you know, share praises, like great things, all sorts of things in that discussion. Ernest, do you have any more that you want to update us on the legislative week? Any further discussion on this point? Not seeing any? May not be back from break yet. Okay, is there any commissioners who would like to comment on this? I know Pam is working with the commissioner on this. So specifically on this legislative week, is there any comments or updates? Okay, seeing none, then we can move on to our agenda, the next point. So the next point is some more events and discussion. We can discuss that one further in the future. We need to develop, oh, Ernest. Yeah, regarding legislative week. We've been in discussion with Pam and Holly. We've been reaching out to some senators, representatives in the House and the Senate. And there's another House representative, I believe their name starts with an H, Haley. So we've reached out to several of them, trying to work with a schedule to a time when they would be able to show up, not necessarily in person, but in a Zoom meeting where they could interact with constituents, to really listen to the plans that people have. There could be a forum, a discussion where the community can share what they've seen, make recommendations to the legislature about different bills that deaf and hard of hearing people would like to advocate for next year. And things that they want to see that would be of assistance to the deaf and hard of hearing community, or things that they feel are on the books that should be removed from policy and statute. So we really want to empower the community to advocate on bills, and not just something that the commissioner, myself, is working on, but that they could also be empowered in being involved in this process as well. So whether someone's in the House or the Senate, to be able to explain why they should support a bill or why they should not support a particular bill. So we want to provide training and empowerment to the community so that they can learn about being more self-advocate, and then inviting those two people from the Senate. I believe there's also an advisor to the legislative. The name is Kim Minko. So we'll invite them as well to give a presentation and explain about the process of passing a bill through the legislature, and from start to finish, what does that look like and what is that process, so that people can know. But we don't have a date set for that yet. We're still in communication with those two senators, the liaison Kim Bianco, and do you have anything else to add on Legislative Week regarding that? No? Lindsay? Okay, that's fine. But we do have a plan for Legislative Week, and it's in the works. Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Christine West, I see that you said that there's a legislative liaison, Kim Bianco. Thank you. Do any commissioners want to comment or add or provide feedback to that point? Not seeing any? Okay, we can move ahead. Well, thank you so much, Ernest, for providing that update. Just trying to get some clarity here. So just to review and in summary, the legislative week, we're still working out the details. We don't have firm dates in place, but we've been contacting, the Rhode Island Commission has two people from, well, one from the Senate and one from the House of Representatives, who are planning on the board, but they don't come to meetings. They're more, they're members of the board for the purpose of, if we want to bring a bill, then they would be the ones we would first discuss that with and have our contact person. They are our connection to the Senate and the House of Representatives. So we've worked with them for a while. So Senator Gallo is a new appointee. And handy, and he's actually a CODA, child of a deaf adult, as a strong ally for the deaf and hard of hearing community. So once we've established a date, then we will invite them to present. Someone from the National Association for the Deaf would come to do that, to discuss the bills working through the legislature, and so that the community could understand that process. So that's a brief summary of Legislative Week. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay. Are there any, yeah, we see your thank you, great. Are Are there any other commissioners that want to comment on this, or we can move on to the next point? The next point is about community, deaf and hard of hearing community, maybe wanting some support on how to express their concerns, having some talking points, signing points, so that they can look at them and say, oh, this is a good guide for us to be able to express our concerns and thoughts. You know, sometimes if you haven't had that guide, it's hard in the moment to be able to express your thoughts when you're coming to meet a senator or House a representative. So providing pre-talking points, guidelines to the community. We're wondering if we should develop something like that so that it's ready. So for community members to be able to look at prior to legislative week. So does anyone have any comments or suggestions or feedback on that point? Maybe Ernest, you would like to comment? Ernest is saying yes, yes. I think we were doing potentially establishing a forum to discuss some ideas and making suggestions of various bills. And that's a good point. We could also develop some questions that the community could look to ask the senator or the House of Representatives just to build that relationship. And educate the community and learning how to be an advocate and how to make that connection, how to do that through a video phone, or they call through call themselves on the phone, or meet in person. How do they meet their rep? You know, currently right now, of course, with COVID, you can't do that in person, but in other times, you know, maybe you could show up as a group to speak to them at their office. Maybe you would go just one-on-one. You could show up to just go to a hearing, to bill. You could watch the voting process. All of those things. We want to develop some of those talking points just so people are more prepared and can be a part of that learning process and what the legislative process looks like. So thank you. Any other commissioners? Drew. Hi, Drew Balsley. It's a great idea that's been brought forward, specifically signing points. I think one of the things that we really want to work on is I think the Rhode Island community might already, you know a little bit based on some, done some with captioning, open captioning and other things, but helping to guide the community to know, to be more comfortable in those conversations. So we want to make sure we know what we already know and what we're planning to do in the future, so that we have some of that ready before the forum, to make sure that we all have a good foundation of information before we get together. Any further discussion? Tim is responding. All right. So maybe now we can continue to think on that, and you can be in touch with Earnest about any ideas or feedback or input within in March and April. Our next meeting in March, I know we already getting closer to that date. So, okay, seeing nothing at this point, we can move on to new business. In letter A, we have some approved new members. So one of them has applied to the employment committee. I believe, Ernest, do you have a name for the person for that committee? Would you like to share it? Possibly we would move forward with an approval. I'm wondering if that's something that we need to do in a closed meeting to approve that committee member? I think just the name to be brought forward for approval. Do we need to discuss it or? Well, they have an applied form. I emailed it. I can give the name. Amy Hogue. Okay, and then she applied for the employment committee, Amy Hogue? Yes. Okay, so we need to have an approval vote from the commissioners. And any new members who would join the committee need to be approved. So if we have a motion, hold on. Oh, hold on just a second. Let me just explain. Ernest is saying Amy Hogue is deaf, and she signs. Betsy, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I'm on that committee, and we had a death of somebody who was on that committee, and that was a representative from the Department of Labor and Training. And I'm wondering if Amy is and then we had another person resign who was just sort of a general public person who was on the committee. I just wonder, is Amy part of the Department of Labor and Training or represent any organization coming on to the committee?
Ernest, do you have that information? Yes. Amy Hogue, no, she is not involved in either of those. She would be a representative of the deaf as a signer.
Yeah, I know we have.
So she would have.
That's great. Yes. And I moved to accept her to be on the employment committee.
Do we have a second?
This is Caroline speaking. I'll second.
Okay, we have Carolyn Obrick as a second, and we will go ahead and do a vote. So please, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion on that point, then we can go ahead and vote. So everyone can turn their videos on and show their vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we have 9, a unanimous approval. So then we'll go ahead and contact her to be involved in the employment committee. We do have another committee, the Interpreter Referral Service Committee. We've received several names to be on that committee, and we will provide the names. If we feel that they're all good, then we can put them all forward in a motion. I'm going to go ahead and put their names out and their roles on that committee. So the first is from the Rhode Island Association of the Deaf. Jen Maloney. She's a licensed interpreter, and she would represent RAD. And second, RARAD, we'd have Rain Dupicott, and she's a licensed interpreter. And third, from the commissioner, would be Tina Nelson. She is also a licensed interpreter, and she would like to join that committee and serve. The fourth is a deaf consumer who is interested. Talia Jackson. So those would be the 4 who are interested in that committee. We need one more hard of hearing, and we are waiting until Friday to hear about that person, so we don't have a name to add at this time. If that person is interested, then there would still be 2 more seats for that committee with a total of 7. So if we would like to go ahead and make a motion for approval of those 4 names, we can start at that point to create a schedule. But we do need to add more members to the committee to bring it up to 7. But we don't need to hold on that. If we are satisfied with those names, we can move ahead with the approval of those. So do we have a motion for that? I just want to clarify, this is Drew. I just want to clarify the 3 interpreters, and then 1 was a deaf consumer. And then Friday, you said there was possibility of somebody else. Were they hearing or deaf? The 5th person is from the Rhode Island Hearing Loss Association. So they would be a hard of hearing person, Drew is saying. So do all 5 of them, so the seats that are left, what are required for those seats? It would just be general. It'd be perfect to have more deaf consumers on the board. We already have 3 interpreters on that committee. So maybe a deaf interpreter, another hard of hearing person, more consumers would be, but we're open to anyone. Honestly, a deaf consumer service user could. At the same time, I think it's important to have a good balance of diverse consumers on the board, on the committee. If you are interested, that's great. I think there's no limit of commissioners being on the committee. So if you're interested, Drew, are any other commissioners? If we add Drew as the 5th in that motion for tonight, as a deaf consumer or commissioner, either role. Does anyone want to make a motion on those 5 names?
Caroline speaking. I move that we accept all 5 applicants to that committee.
Boonmi? You're muted, Boonmi?
Sorry, I support Caroline's move to go ahead with those 5 people.
Do you want a second?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second from Boonmi. So is there any further discussion, or we move forward into vote? Okay, I say that we go ahead, turn your videos on and show your vote. Oh, I wasn't sure if you wanted to speak. Okay. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Okay. We have a unanimous support of the motion. Thank you. So the motion passes with 9 votes, unanimous. Next. Those 5 people, we will contact them. They will be in plan for their first meeting. And any further additions will be discussed at the next meeting. So we're always open if there's any urgent issues in the community. Anything specifically about COVID going on? Does anyone feel that there is something very important to discuss? If not, we can move on in the agenda. Anything very urgent and important to discuss at this time?
Bumi
Specifically
here.
related to COVID.
Bumi, I have a comment.
Okay, if you could turn your video on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just wondering if there's anything we can do to educate deaf people about the COVID vaccine, because what I'm seeing is that many people are refusing it, especially in the deaf community. And the reason is because of what they're reading and hearing on social media. So for the Rhode Islanders, the deaf people in Rhode Island, what can we do to encourage them to tell them that it is safe?
Go ahead, Ernest. Just to respond to Bumi, your question, we had some discussion on this topic, specifically the deaf community having resistance to the vaccine because of information, not feeling comfortable, not feeling ready, and that lack of information. So we've been filming some various information from doctors that are giving information about the vaccine, how it is safe, and we're including it in Sign. So we're continuing to do some internal discussions within the commission on how to really show the community that it's secure, that it is safe. And the Rhode Island Commission, what we're planning to do, the Department of Health is also in part of that process. What we're planning to do is still in process, but we do have plans to share more information and that people know it is their choice, but that the vaccine is safe. That would be the bottom line. So yes, we recognize that, and we know that in Utah, they actually have a site for vaccination that is for the deaf, only for the deaf. And so deaf people can all go to that site, and it's the service for the deaf and hard of hearing, and it's hosted. And it's right now it's only for those 75 and above. And then they will continue to move down in age range at that site. But that's something that Utah has done, and that maybe it's something that could be established. We could establish a specific site, vaccination site, focused on the deaf and hard of hearing community, so that there would be communication access, people would feel more comfortable. But we know that that's going to be a challenge with resources for oversight, and the number of things that be required to establish a site like that. But if the commissioners feel that that is something that we should move forward and establish a vaccination site that is focused on the comfort in communication for the deaf and hard of hearing. I know often trying to go to a site with there's lots of hearing people, that uncomfortable communication access is difficult. But we really want to get a more general feel from the community. Is that a felt need? Is that something that more people would attend and respond to? So that is something that we've seen from Utah. They did establish that, and they've noticed a change in the number of their community showing up for the vaccine. So that is one option that we saw in Utah, but we're open to opinions and perspectives and ideas. Go ahead, Betsy Beach.
Yeah, I work with people who are homeless and people in the prison system. So I was able to get a vaccination appointment, and I did get the first dose on February 2nd. I went to the large vaccination site on Sockanosset Crossroads in Cranston. And I found it difficult as a hard of hearing person because it's very well organized. It's run by the National Guard, but there are about 6 checkpoints that you have to go through. So you have to have your name and your ID identified. You have to answer questions about if you've been exposed to COVID. You have to, I was representing an organization. You have to prove, show your work letters, say that I belong to that organization. I've been sent by them, and they look on the list for your name. And each one of these sites is a new person and a different table to go to. So at each stop, I had to say, you have to slow down. I'm hard of hearing. I use hearing aids. I'm going to ask you to repeat if I don't understand you the first time. I slowed a few people down because, you know, I need that. And then you go get vaccinated after like 2 or 3 checkpoints, and then you sit in a waiting area for 15 minutes to make sure you have no immediate reaction to the vaccine. And then you have 2 checkouts after you spend the 15 minutes in the waiting area. I can't remember if one of those checkouts, whether they called my name, which is also another thing that's very difficult to hear what names they're calling. So it's intimidating. And I'm a pretty savvy, hard of hearing consumer. That's just for me. If we could get a time and a place just for deaf and hard of hearing, I would recommend us doing that.
Bumi?
Yeah, Betsy, I'm so sorry to hear about your experience. As a healthcare worker, we have the opportunity to go ahead of the elderly people to get our vaccine. We went to Lincoln, Kirby Country Club. If people who have gone to weddings, it's like a banquet hall at Lincoln, Rhode Island. The first time we went there, there was no interpreter, but the process was very easy. You park on the parking lot, you go across the road, and you just take your vaccine. All those information that Betsy was talking about, you must have done online while you register. So by the time you get there, all you have to show is your ID, and you'll get your vaccination, and you wait for 15 minutes and you leave. Today, the second set of people that went for their second vaccine actually told me that there was a sign language interpreter there. I was so impressed. I don't know how they organized that, but the fact that they thought about that and there was a sign language interpreter there, that was very, I was very happy about that. So in order to encourage people, I would say if you're a healthcare worker and you have the opportunity at your job and they send you to register at I think for now, the healthcare worker, especially with the BHDDH, Buddha, that's where everyone will get their vaccination from, Lincoln, at the Kirby Club at Lincoln, Rhode Island. There, the experience was good, unlike where Betsy got hers.
Tim is saying, good, thank you, Bumi. And did somebody make a comment? I think in the community, I saw somebody, Danielle Laughlin, posted something and in your chat. If you would like to open up your video and repeat that, I think that would be good access. Is Danielle still here? I saw it in the chat. I can repeat it if she doesn't stated. So what she's saying is that she had just posted a video of a deaf person having the experience of getting the vaccine, and it's available to be viewed. Let me see. It looks like when it's available, it'll be shared with the community, and it goes into more in-depth experiences of a deaf person getting the vaccine. And it's on the RIAD Facebook page, I believe. I'm assuming. So is there any more discussion? I know we have a few more minutes left. I see a follow-up from Danielle. Yes, and Drew. This is Drew speaking. This is just very quick, but Betsy's comment about being a deaf or hard of hearing person having access to the site. It would be great if we had a dedicated site, because I know I work at the Learning Center, so we went through the process and we were able to ask for a lot of clarification. And I felt like communication access needs to be really important because people are concerned about the vaccine. And as Mike was talking about setting up, you know, originally when we did the testing, it makes a big difference when you have a deaf dedicated site and a non-deaf, because there's so many people who are concerned, they don't have the information, they don't understand what's really happening there. And I think if we could set it up with interpreters there, it would be a huge benefit to the deaf community. Thanks, Tim Singh. I do think we're almost out of time, but Carolyn, I see you. I'll recognize you.
Just a quick thing. At the end of the process, when you're waiting to see if you have a reaction or not, that's when you have to take out your phone and get the information in to get your second appointment. If you have any problems with that, they have National Guard to help you. But if you can't hear them, they can't help you. So that last bit is very important, and they don't tell you that ahead of time. So that's another thing I think people need to be aware of.
Thank you. There are a lot of concerns about the vaccine. And so I'm hoping that with Earnest and Mike Baer working on this, they've jotted down some notes about how we can help the deaf community go through that. Very good. I'm wondering if we have enough time to look at the agenda item that B is going to be, it's a pretty heavy topic. It's going to take some time to discuss. So I'm wondering if I could look at the one, let me see, about the Rhode Island Commission supporting equity, racial equity and inclusion, and establishing an inclusion action plan, public communication, events, meetings, resource groups, including recruiting more commissioners, committee members from diverse backgrounds, and also including celebrating and having awards and recognition and other efforts. That item C in new business. I know time is so short. We have only a few minutes, and this is a very important topic. And I'm wondering, Ernest, if there's anything that you would want to bring up about that topic, anything that we need to be discussed. I can also bring up some things, whichever you prefer. Ernest is saying, yes. This is Ernest speaking. So Tim and Caroline and I have talked about setting up a 5th committee. We have 4 committees: the Education Committee, the Employment one, Healthcare, and the Tech Access. We were asking about picking up a 5th one that would be on social justice, equity, and inclusion. And that would be where we would give a platform to Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and people who have had the experiences, either family members who are related to people who are BIPOC or BIPOC people themselves who have experienced a lot of oppression and frustration, discrimination, racism, and share their experiences, to give them a place where they can express themselves and they can talk about some goals about improving equity and access. And just to be honest, I know that there are a lot of deaf and hard of hearing commissions in the US. And very often they're focused on white people and they either marginalize or, don't center people who are BIPOC. Where is their voice? Where are their rights? So it seems like a lot of times people like Black Deaf Advocates and other organizations are siloed and they aren't involved in, they aren't at bigger venues where they could actually have a voice at the table. Where is the equity in that? And they need to be able to explain, if we had a committee like that, then the Rhode Island Commission could listen to them and also help liaise them to other agencies and state bodies. So we've talked about that, a fifth committee, to give them a chance to really have equal access so that they're not marginalized, they're not centered. We've talked about all the different people, the immigrants and the people of African heritage and other people of color here in the state who really experience a ton of frustrations and barriers to having access. And we don't know if we're answering their needs. That's the question. We are here for them and we need to show them that we're here. It can't just be for white people. We have to be able to serve all people in the state. And they haven't had a chance to really participate. We're not really representing them at this point. We haven't supported them to really spread the word and recruit folks who can represent that point of view for our different committees and for our commission. And that would start the discussion, starting a fifth committee that focuses on those issues. Tim's saying, thank you so much, Ernest, for speaking to that. This is a discussion that we should have, we should refer to the to a committee to talk more in depth at the next meeting. And I'm thinking that maybe we could, we're at the very end of our time today, and this is a huge topic, very important, and I want to give it the respect it's due. If people support the idea, we could refer it to the, I'm sorry, the interpreter's missing the executive committee. The executive committee, we'd refer to the interpreter, the interpreter is just correcting the record. We would refer to the executive committee and then bring it back to the commission if the other commissioners agree. Then we would be able to meet to talk about the description of that committee, what the goals would be for that committee. It would be nice to have community feedback and input prior to establishing that committee. I think the first step would be possibly to have it referred to executive committee and then move back to this larger body to discuss it more in depth. So there's two other items on the agenda. I will refer that to the executive, and then the D and E legislation and the interpreter referral we'll be holding until the next meeting. I think if there's any new bills coming in through the state. The last one is interpreter referral policy and procedures. And I think that that's already been covered. Earnest mentioned that there's an ad hoc committee that is going to be working on policy and procedures. So I think that can be referred to that committee if there's any other issues about those 3 items. Any objections to referring the equity and inclusion to the executive committee, and then the legislation that we'd hold off to the next meeting, but the interpretive referral would be under the new ad hoc interpretive referral committee. If there's no objections, then we will move forward to closing and adjourning this meeting. Amy said that she was interested. Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry, it wasn't in my view. So Amy, you're saying you would like to be, if you want to open you're saying you want to be considered for the ad hoc committee? Is that what you're saying? So I see a comment from Amy saying volunteering to join the ad hoc committee as a deaf consumer. This is Amy Slezak. There you are, Amy. Hi. I'm sorry, the light is behind me. Yes. So you had a comment that you would like to volunteer on you would like to join the ad hoc committee? Yes, I'd be happy to join to support the ad hoc interpretive referral, because I've seen a lot of issues with interpretive referral, and I would support the deaf and hard of hearing community in addressing those concerns. Tim saying thank you, and Amy saying no problem. We're running out of time for sure. We're actually over time. And at the next meeting, we can bring your name up for approval, Amy. And also this person that, well, anybody else who's applying for that committee, and also the people that come forward between now and then. If there are any other announcements, if not, I would adjourn the meeting. Are there any announcements? Ernest? Yes, one last point. Are all the commissioners still here? Do we still have the full commission here? What I would like, after this meeting is over, if the commissioners could stay, I would like to just take a quick screenshot of the commissioners meeting as Zoom, and then I could put it on the website. So please don't leave. We could all open up our videos. Okay, yes. Well, we closed the meeting officially. I want to thank you all for coming. It is now 8:05. I'm officially adjourning this meeting. And then if the commissioners stay, we're going to take a quick picture so that we can have something on our website of our meeting and all the commissioners involved. Thank you. So please all open your cameras. Hi, everyone. Hi, good to see everyone.